investors, welcome back to the Trend Trader channel. Today we're going to be looking at two companies. So for each company, we will go through the brief overview of each company, and we'll do a brief financial statement analysis, looking at how profitable those companies are. And then we will look at the chart of each stock in order to try to find a buying or selling opportunity in that particular company. So sit back, enjoy as we go through these different companies together. But also do keep in mind that earlier this week we published a video that showed people how to buy time bank shares using EasyEquities. So if you haven't seen that video, go check it out. We also have a video where we're giving a dividend portfolio update. We also mentioned a couple of free websites that you can use to do research when you're looking for stocks to buy or for stocks to trade. And then in the past few weeks, we had a video where we're talking about 4 companies that can pay you dividends. So if you haven't seen those videos, make sure that you go and check those videos as well. And for anyone who hasn't subscribed, we'll be happy if you can consider subscribing. That will help the channel to really grow. And at the end of the video, if you find this content useful, please make sure that you like this video and share it with as many people as you can. Right. So now let's look at the companies. So the first company that I want us to talk about is Anglo American. So now I'm on the Anglo American website. We're just looking at what they do. But for those that don't know, Anglo American, it's a mining company. They're involved in different resources. As we see here, they mine copper, diamonds, platinum group metals. They also mine iron ore, coal, nickel, and manganese. Remember that Anglo American group is a diversified group. Here now we are just looking at Anglo American PLC, but there's also Anglo Gold, Ashanti, Kumba Iron Ore, and many other companies that are part of the Anglo Gold group. But in this case, we're only looking at the Anglo American PLC, right? So now for this company, there isn't much that we want to say. We will look at the financial statements using MoneyWeb, right, so that you can just get a quick idea of what is happening. So if we look at this company, we can see that it has a dividend yield of 5.28%, meaning that the company in the previous year, it was profitable and it declared a dividend. The last dividend that they paid was about 80 cents US dollars, which is about 12 rands at a exchange rate of 15 rand, 15 cents to the dollar. So that's good because we're interested in companies that pay dividends. And then we can also see that over the period of a year, the company or the share price grew by about 27%, and year to date, meaning since the beginning of the 2022 trading year to today, the stock is up by about 11%. So that is good. We are happy to see that we're investing in a company that has a growing share price, meaning that the value of our investment is going to grow. And then if we look at the income statement, we can see that okay, they did a bit of sales, but they had about, I think that's 21.7 billion there that they had in terms of revenue. And then they have an operating profit margin of about 50.5%, which is also good again. Then when you look at the balance sheet, we look at the total current asset, we see that they have about, I think that's about 22.5 billion, because remember here we have the other 3 zeros there. So this figure is in billions, and we can see that the total current assets are increasing from 17.5 billion to 22.5 billion. But if you look at the total current liabilities, they are just 10.9 billion. They are far less than the current asset. This means that the company has a positive net working capital. So that's another good sign. It's a sign of a healthy company. And also, if you look at the earnings per share, comparing the December 2020 financial reporting period versus June 2021 interim period, we can see that the earnings per share, they increased from 27 rand per share to 64 rand per share. Again, a sign of a positive company there. that one can be interested in investing in. But always, before we invest in a company, we prefer to look at the chart so that we can have an idea where we can find a buying opportunity. So now we're looking at the chart of AGL. The share code is AGL, so that when you go to EasyEquities, you know which Anglo we are talking about. Remember, we said it's a group of companies. They are different. If you just type Anglo American, you will see a whole lot of different companies. In this case, we are looking at AGL. The share price is currently trading at 713 Rand per share, which is good. We saw that the stock was trading within this range, busy going up and down there. So the first attempt there to break above this over 700 Rand, it failed. It came back. It found support around 560. Then there was another second attempt which also failed, bringing the stock below 500 there. And then recently, as we saw yesterday, the share price it attempted to break above this level, and then this time it did succeed. If you look at the volume for the yesterday's trading, it's above the average volume, the typical average volume. So that is a sign that now the stock has successfully broke out of this range. So because the stock is now outside of this trading range, so now we're looking for a buy opportunity. So the best buy opportunity is to buy at market open or anywhere as close as 713 Rand as possible, and then have a stop level just below this level of breakout. So that's about 608 Rand per share. So that if the share price decline, at least we arrest that decline and we don't lose much. By that I mean, if the share price fails to move up and then it comes here, then we will be able to exit, because we don't want to experience the situation whereby the share price it fails and then it goes back all the way to 560 with us. That will be a large loss. Remember, the goal is to protect the capital and then to grow that capital. So that is why we always use a stop loss. In terms of the upside, we don't really worry much about how high the stock can go, as long as we are able to protect our downside and be able to protect our capital. That should be our main goal, right? Another thing to note there, as you can see, in February 2020, the earnings couldn't beat what the analyst forecasted, but the company did pay a dividend of about 7.80 Rand per share. That is gross dividend. And then from July 2020 all the way to July 2021, the earnings kept on increasing, which is good. You also see that the share price was increasing over that period. And then when you look at the dividend declined a bit there in March 2020. Remember, that's when we had the COVID scare. So a lot of companies didn't want to pay those dividends because they didn't know how long COVID will last and the impact that it will have on their businesses. But you can see that in March, the dividend then now increased to 10 Rand 61, and then again it increased to 37 Rand. The dividend in September 2021 or August 2021. So yeah, that's the first company. We are bullish. We are buying this company at 714 Rand with the stop at about 680 there. And then I expect the share price to continue to go up. So an all-time high is also a bullish signal. This stock is reaching an all-time high, meaning that it's the first time that it traded at this price. It has never traded above this price before. I know that some people, they are scared to buy high because they subscribe to the thinking of buy low and sell high. You can buy high and sell higher, and that's exactly what we are going to do here. Right. So now let's look at the other company that I want us to touch. So the company that I want us to look at is Prosus. So those people that don't know Prosus is a tech company. It's one of the biggest companies in the GSE. So it's the second biggest company after Naspers. Prosus used to be part of Naspers, but they unbundled that company to separate them into two entities. So now Prosus is just a leading internet group. They've got plenty of companies where they invest. You can see that if you browse their website, prosus.com, You can read all about what they do, who they are. But if you look at companies, the companies that they own, as you can see that they are building companies that can empower people and enrich communities, which is good. You can find Prosus in payments and fintech. They also invest in classified businesses, food delivery, social and internet platforms, ed tech, travel, and retail. So if you look at the list of companies where they have invested, some of them we may be familiar with, some of them we may not be familiar with, like Auto Trader. Most people, they know Auto Trader. We're always looking to buy cars. And then let's see which other company that I recognize. Yeah, but like I said, they've got plenty of companies. Okay, we know Luno. That's where some investors buy their Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies. We know OLX. We are familiar with OLX. And then let's see what else is there. We are familiar with Property 24. We don't just buy cars. We're also looking to invest in property. So yes, they also own property stocks. Those who are in ICT, they are familiar with Stack Overflow. The company that is widely known is Tencent. They own a large chunk of Tencent. Tencent is a Chinese tech giant, mostly involved in games, but yeah, they can have other investment there, or other investments there besides gaming. And Udemy, we also invest in education a lot. So Udemy is there. They also co-own Udemy, right? So I want us to go and look into their financial statements there before we go and look at the chart. If you are still with us, make sure that you subscribe. And if you have enjoyed the content so far, make sure that you like this video, right? So I'm looking at the results center there. So I'm reading the condensed consolidated financial statement, which is the long version, but there's also a short version. If you want to get more information on the annual report, you will find it on this tab, right? So now we are looking at the interim result of 2022. I've already downloaded that file there, the consolidated financial statements, right? So what I'm interested in, it's this first page. Well, it's not the first page of the document, but in this page, that is where they speak about the revenue, the profits, and the taxes that they've paid, and the earnings per share. So this is one of the pages that I'm interested in whenever I'm reading a financial statement or annual report of a company, so that I can have an idea of how healthy the business is in terms of financial positions. I'm not just interested in knowing what the business does, but I'm also interested to see how does the cash flow in that business, right? So if we look at this consolidated income statement, we can see that they say that the revenue from contract with customers, it's about 3 billion US dollars. But then here they have an operating loss of about 300 million. And then there's a jump there. They say that it gains on partial disposal of equity accounted investment. Now you see we have a high figure there of about 12.3 billion. And then when they combine all these numbers, they get a profit before tax of 15.8 billion, which is good. Then after tax, they have a profit of 15.8 billion. It's a good number. It shows that the business is growing. When you compare it with the year that ended in March, they have a profit of 7.3 billion, and then now the profit has jumped by about more than 7 billion. Not to say okay, it jumped about 8 billion to 15.8 billion, which is good. So now when we look at the earnings per share, how much money our shares made from this company, we see in the previous period, it only grew by $4.59, and then now the earnings per ordinary share for the interim period, it's $10.07. That's about 150 rands or so, depending on the exchange rate that you are using. But remember, it's in US cent, and then this is about $10.07 that we see there, and then you can convert it. Okay. Then when we continue, we still see the profit for the period there, but there isn't much we can get from this unless you understand what it means, a consolidated statement of comprehensive income. For me, in this page, I'm more interested in seeing the profit and the profit after tax, and also to see the earnings per share, because I just want to see a positive figure that the company was profitable. So each share did make some earnings. Right. Then when you look at the balance sheet here, we can see the current asset, it's 14.9 billion, and then it grew from 7.1 billion, which is good. And then we compare the current asset to current liabilities, it only has current liabilities of about 4.8 billion. So now again, we can see that it's over half. It's not even half, it's more than half, because it's 4.7 billion compared to 14.9 billion. So again, Prosus has a positive net working capital, which is good. That tells me that the company is in a healthy financial position. As a result, then I'm looking for buy opportunities. Then you can continue reading on this document to see if you have got any more information that you want to dig there. And then there's a statement of cash flow. If you understand what it's in the statement of cash flow, then you can continue reading there so that you can make an informed decision. But for me, that is enough. Now we must go and look at the chart of Prosus. So if you look at a trading view, you just type a PRX, or you can type a Prosus. You will see there are two Prosus. Remember, Prosus is not listed. It's listed in the JSE, but the main listing is in Amsterdam. Then we have a secondary listing in here in the Johannesburg Security Exchange. Okay. So now the way that we've been looking at Prosus for a while, it's going to be the first time me owning Prosus. Prosus was listed in October 2019 when they unbundled some Naspers business. It was listed somewhere around 1,000 rand per share. So yeah, that was about 1,000 rand. And then for a while it traded below the IPO price, and then it bottomed just to about 900 rand per share. And then it broke even the following month, somewhere around April, May 2020. That's when the people that bought IPO, that's when they broke even, and then they started to make money. We saw that earlier in 2021. That's when the stock reached an all-time high before it started to fall, right? So I just want to see here where was the all-time high. The all-time high was around 1,970 rand per share. And then from there, the wheels started to come off, coming back to the IPO price of about 1.2. And then for a while, the stock has been just moving sideways. So now, for the long time, we didn't have a position on Prosus, as it was just consolidating sideways. The good news is that the share price didn't continue to fall there. Remember, Prosus is not a bad company, but we didn't have a position due to the fact that the stock was on a downtrend. I don't have a reason to own a stock that is on a downtrend, because in the market, if there's a stock that is on a downtrend, there's always other stocks that on an uptrend. So I look for those opportunities that are on an uptrend, right? Because I don't want to sit at a loss. I just want to consistently make money if there's an opportunity to make money, right? So now we see that the share price has just been trading in this range, consolidating. And then yesterday, the share price, it closed above the 200-day moving average here. Let me clear this drawing for a while. Right, this is what we mean that the share price is closed above the 200-day moving average, even though the volume is minimal. We also saw that Naspers had a strong day yesterday. So that shows that both these companies, remember, they are related. They have a strength. They are pushing in the same direction, right? So now, how are we planning to trade a Prosus? So now the goal is that we want to buy Prosus anywhere near this break-in price, and then we can set our stop loss depending how much risk you prefer to take. You can prefer to have a stop loss below the yesterday price, but remember that there's a gap. Some people, they believe that a gap can be filled. So if you are a long-term investor in a Prosus, you can buy Prosus at any price somewhere near here, and then you can have your stop loss either at this low, or you can have your stop loss just below this low here. But remember, the wider the stop loss, it means that you need to take a short or a small positions. I mean, your position size must always be relative to the amount of risk that you are willing to take. So a tight stop means more shares, but a wide stop means that you need a few shares, right? So let's assume that you're buying at the current share price and you have your stop loss below this level. So that's the amount of risk that you are willing to take. And then the long-term target, it's this targeting that previous high, all-time high. So that is the potential risk to reward. So just at quick glance, that is just over 1:2 risk to reward. Remember, we always encourage you that you don't take any trade that has a risk to reward that is less than 1:2, because there's no guarantee that the trade are going to work. So you must make sure that the risk, at any time you take risk, the risk is worth taking. So, but that is how we're planning to take this trade. We're going to buy at the current price, have a stop loss at about 1,200 Rand per share, targeting the previous high of about 1,950 Rand per share. We don't know how long this trade is going to take, either for us to realize a loss or for us to make profit. So if it goes up, it reach there, we will be able to make some profit. But if the share price, it falls and then we exit there at about 1.2, it means that we will lose that amount that we're taking there. Another thing to take into consideration, you can see that the ATR, which we use to measure volatility, we can see that the stock at this moment has low volatility. So if you take a volatility into account whenever you're buying shares, if you buy a share anytime when it's trading at a high volatility period, then you will see that that share price has large fluctuations. So it becomes difficult to set a stop loss. But a place where it's low volatility, then we can see that the share price is trading in small tight ranges, meaning that it's much easier to set a stop loss. But these are some of the things that you will learn over time as you dive deeper and deeper into technical analysis. For those people that are not inclined to technical analysis, this might not mean a lot, but yeah, from a technical analysis perspective, it's a useful information because you can learn a lot from this, right? Okay, what else do you want to say about Prosus? Okay, maybe let's talk about the earnings here. We can see at some point, July 2020, they were able to beat the earnings and they paid a dividend of about 2 Rand 10 cent there, right? If you look at Prosus, I think I saw somewhere they were reading the dividends in euros. So they paid about 14 cent euro cents there. And also the dividend yield is dismal, is 0.19, but you're not going to stop buying the share just because it has a low dividend yield. Remember, we are buying the share for the share price appreciation, looking at the chart based on technical analysis, but we know that Prosus is a profitable company. So while the share price is appreciating, we can also expect to receive dividends along the way, irrespective of the fact that the dividend yield is minimum. But if you look at the size of the market capitalization of Prosus, you can see that it's a giant. That's a 2.7 trillion Rand company. So it's really a big company. If it does well, it has the potential to lift the whole of JSE. But if it doesn't do well, it also has the potential to drag the JSE low with it. So that is something that you should keep in mind there. Be mindful that it has a minimal dividend yield, but that, well, it does mean something, but it's not, we're not going to base our buying decision based on that. Our decision is purely based on the chart there. So yeah, that's what we wanted to share with you. to show you these two companies, so then you can look at those companies and make your own conclusion. But at this moment, we just want to ask you that if you haven't subscribed yet, that you do smash that subscribe button. And if you enjoyed this analysis, you also smash that like button. If you have any comments, suggestions, or complaints, you can just type them there in the comment section. We always try to address each and every comment that we see on our channel. Thank you. We will see in the next analysis.